If you've ever noticed that the less you seem to care, the more someone chases you, it's not an accident. It's not some trick or mind game. It's human psychology at work. And it all comes down to one powerful concept: detachment. Think about the times in your life when you've wanted something so badly that you could hardly focus on anything else. Maybe it was a relationship, a job, or even a material goal. The more you obsessed over it, the more it seemed just out of reach. But then something interesting happened. The moment you stopped grasping, when you finally let go and focused elsewhere, things started shifting. Opportunities opened up, people became more drawn to you, and suddenly that thing you once chased seemed to come to you effortlessly. This is exactly what happens in dating and relationships. The reason detachment works so powerfully is because people are wired to be drawn to what they perceive as valuable yet uncertain. The moment you show someone that your happiness, your emotional stability, and your self-worth are not dependent on them, you shift the power dynamic. You move from being the person waiting for their affection to the person they now feel the need to earn. Psychologists have long studied what's called the paradox of desire, the idea that the more we desperately want something, the more elusive it becomes. It's the reason why in relationships, neediness repels and confidence attracts. When someone senses that your emotions hinge on their validation, they instinctively pull away, not necessarily because they don't like you, but because they feel the pressure of expectation. And expectation kills spontaneity. It removes the excitement, the mystery, the challenge. It's like being handed the ending of a book before you've even read the first few chapters. There's nothing left to uncover. But when you embrace detachment, everything changes. You're no longer placing your happiness in someone else's hands. You're no longer anxiously checking your phone or analyzing every interaction. Instead, you're operating from a place of inner confidence, one where you're completely comfortable whether this person chooses you or not. And paradoxically, this very mindset makes them want you more. Why? Because true confidence is rare. Most people walk around seeking approval. They chase, they overthink, they attach their worth to whether or not someone texts back. But the person who doesn't need that approval, the person who genuinely enjoys their own life, regardless of who's in it, that person stands out. That person creates intrigue. And intrigue is what sparks pursuit. Think about it from another perspective. Imagine you're in a store and you see two items. One is in abundance, available on every shelf, easy to grab at any time. The other is rare, high in demand, and not always easy to get. Which one do you instinctively value more? The rare one, of course, not because it's necessarily better, but because its very scarcity makes it feel special. This is exactly how human attraction works. The less you signal that you're overly available, the more you create a natural pull. Now, let me be clear. Detachment is not about pretending you don't care. It's not about playing cold or manipulative games. It's about actually cultivating a mindset where you truly do not need someone to complete you, where your happiness isn't dependent on their presence, where their pursuit is a bonus, not a necessity. The irony is, when you genuinely adopt this mindset, you'll notice something remarkable. Not only do people chase you more, but you become far more selective about who you even allow into your life. Because when you stop operating from scarcity, when you no longer fear losing someone, you start making choices based on true compatibility, not desperation. This is why the most attractive people aren't the ones trying the hardest to be loved. They're the ones who are simply living their lives, focusing on their passions, their purpose, their growth. They're not fixated on whether someone stays or goes because they trust that the right person will naturally gravitate toward them. So the next time you feel that urge to chase, to overthink, to overinvest, to overcompensate, pause. Ask yourself, am I acting from a place of abundance or from fear? If it's fear, shift your focus. Redirect your energy back to yourself. Because the moment you stop trying so hard to be chosen is the moment you become the one people want to choose. Have you ever noticed how the things that are hardest to get always seem the most valuable? Whether it's an exclusive event, a limited edition product, or a rare opportunity, people instinctively assign more worth to what isn't readily available. This isn't just a marketing trick, it's human nature. And when it comes to dating, the same principle applies. Scarcity creates value. The less you make yourself constantly available, the more someone feels the need to pursue you. Now, let's be clear, this isn't about playing games or deliberately ignoring someone just to get a reaction. It's about understanding a fundamental truth. People appreciate what they have to work for. When something is given too easily, it's taken for granted. When something feels slightly out of reach, it ignites curiosity, effort, and most importantly, emotional investment. Think about the last time you were truly excited about something. Maybe it was a project, a trip, or even a relationship. Chances are part of what made it exciting was the fact that you had to earn it in some way. Anticipation builds value. The process of working towards something makes us appreciate it more when we finally get it. But if something is handed to us with no effort, it loses its meaning. This is why in relationships, constantly being available, saying yes to everything, and always being the one to initiate can actually work against you. It removes the sense of challenge. It sends the message that your time, attention, and presence are things that require no effort to obtain. And if there's no effort involved, there's no real value attached to it. Psychologists talk about something called the principle of effort justification. It's the idea that people tend to value things more when they've had to put in effort to attain them. It's why expensive items feel more special than cheap ones, even if the quality isn't vastly different. It's why people tend to respect and appreciate relationships that took time and effort to build, rather than those that were instantly given with no challenge. Now, does this mean you should be difficult for the sake of being difficult? No. What it does mean is that you should be mindful of the level of investment someone is putting into you. If you're always the one initiating plans, always the one making things easy, always the one adapting to their schedule, you're robbing the other person of the opportunity to invest. And without investment, attachment weakens. Here's where things get even more interesting. When someone has to put in effort to be with you, something shifts inside them. They begin to see you as a priority because they've had to work for your time and attention. It forces them to consider their feelings more deeply. And whether they realize it or not, the very act of pursuing you strengthens their own emotional connection. This is why people tend to remember and cherish the relationships where they had to put in effort, where there was a sense of unpredictability, where they felt they had to win the other person over. Contrast that with relationships where everything was handed to them effortlessly. Those connections fade faster because there was no journey, no challenge, no real sense of earning someone's affection. The beauty of understanding this is that it puts you in control, not in a manipulative way, but in an empowering way. It means you don't have to chase. You don't have to overextend yourself. You don't have to prove your worth to someone who isn't willing to put in effort. Instead, you focus on being the kind of person who naturally attracts effort, the kind of person who has standards, the kind of person who knows that their presence is valuable, not something to be given away freely to anyone who asks. And the best part, the people who truly want to be in your life will rise to the occasion. They'll step up. They'll show you through their actions that they see your worth. And those who don't, they'll fade away, which is exactly what should happen, because a relationship where only one person is making the effort is never a relationship worth having. So if you ever feel like you have to convince someone to choose you, take a step back, ask yourself, am I making it too easy? Am I removing the very effort that makes someone appreciate what they have? Because the truth is, when you treat yourself like a prize, when you know your own value and don't give yourself away too easily, other people start treating you that way too. There's something undeniably magnetic about a person who is emotionally independent. You've seen it before, the kind of person who doesn't seek approval, who who doesn't rely on external validation, who moves through life with a quiet confidence that makes others take notice. There's a reason this kind of energy is attractive, and it all comes down to one fundamental truth. Emotional independence signals strength, and strength is irresistible. Let's be honest, most people don't operate this way. Most people are looking for someone to fill a void. They enter relationships not from a place of wholeness, but from a place of need. They crave reassurance. They want someone to complete them. They rely on another person to make them feel secure. And the problem with that, the moment you need someone to make you feel whole, you hand over all your power. You make your happiness their responsibility. And in doing so, you create an imbalance, one where they hold the authority over how you feel. This is why emotional independence is so crucial, because when you don't need someone, when you are genuinely fulfilled on your own, you shift the dynamic. You move from being the person seeking approval to the person who naturally commands respect. You move from being someone who reacts to someone who decides. And that shift, that's the difference between chasing and being chased. Psychologically, we're wired to be drawn to things that feel solid, stable, and self-sufficient. Think about it. If you were to board a plane, would you feel safer if the pilot was calm and composed, or if they were panicking and second-guessing every move? The same principle applies in relationships. When someone senses that your emotions are entirely dependent on them, it creates pressure. It makes them feel like they have to manage not just their own feelings, but yours as well. And that's exhausting. But when you show up as someone who is already happy, already grounded, already whole, it does the opposite. It makes them want to be around you more. Not because they have to, but because they choose to. Now, I know what some people might be thinking, but if I don't show how much I care, won't they think I'm indifferent? There's a big difference between being emotionally independent and being emotionally unavailable. Emotional independence isn't about shutting people out. It's not about being cold or pretending you don't care. It's about being secure in yourself to the point where your emotions are not dictated by someone else's presence or absence. It's about wanting someone but not needing them. And that distinction is everything, because when you want someone, it's a choice. It comes from a place of abundance, from knowing that you are enough with or without them. But when you need someone, it comes from fear. Fear of being alone, fear of not being good enough, fear of losing them, and fear-based attraction never lasts. The irony is that when you stop seeking someone to complete you, you naturally become more desirable. Why? Because now your energy shifts from lack to fulfillment. You're no longer anxiously trying to make someone like you. You're simply living your life, focused on your goals, your passions, your purpose. And that kind of energy is contagious. It makes people want to be around you, not because you need them, but because your presence adds to their life without taking anything away. Think about the most captivating people you know, the ones who walk into a room and instantly command attention. What do they all have in common? It's not just looks, it's not just charm, it's a sense of certainty about who they are. They don't shrink themselves to be liked, they don't over-explain, they don't look for reassurance, they know their value, and they expect others to recognize it too. This is what emotional independence gives you. The ability to walk away if something isn't serving you. The ability to enjoy a relationship without clinging to it. The ability to love someone deeply while still remaining completely whole on your own. And paradoxically, this is exactly what makes people want to stay. Because people don't want to feel needed. They want to feel chosen. They want to know that you're with them because you genuinely want to be, not because you can't be happy without them. So if you ever catch yourself overanalyzing someone's texts, waiting anxiously for validation, or feeling like your happiness is in someone else's hands, stop. Remind yourself that the most attractive thing you can bring to any relationship is not your undivided attention, it's your independence. It's the fact that no matter what happens, you will be just fine. And that mindset, that's the very thing that makes them want you even more. Have you ever noticed that? The moment you start pulling back, people suddenly become more interested. It's almost counterintuitive. When you stop pushing for their attention, they start putting in effort. When you give them space, they move closer. When you're no longer waiting on them, they start waiting on you. This isn't a coincidence. It's human nature. And it all comes down to one of the most powerful psychological principles in attraction, the chase. People value what they have to earn. They invest more deeply in what they feel they might lose. And when they sense that your presence is not guaranteed, something inside them shifts. They start to see you differently. They start to work harder. They start to chase. Now, let's be clear. This isn't about playing mind games. It's not about manipulating someone by deliberately withdrawing or acting uninterested just to trigger a reaction. That kind of behavior is transparent, and any short-term results it gets will eventually backfire. What I'm talking about is something far deeper and far more authentic. The art of pulling back in a way that creates genuine attraction. To understand why this works, let's talk about the psychology of effort. There's a concept in behavioral psychology called the commitment and consistency principle. It states that people become more committed to things they actively invest in. The more effort they put into something, the more they convince themselves that it must be valuable. This is why, paradoxically, the people we work hardest for are often the ones we feel most attached to. Think about it. Have you ever noticed how someone can be casually interested in you, but the moment they feel like they might be losing you, their energy changes? They start texting more. They start making more effort. They start showing up in ways they didn't before. Not because they suddenly realized your worth, but because the loss of your attention made them reevaluate their own feelings. And when you do this authentically, something incredible happens. Instead of chasing them, you start attracting them. Instead of trying to hold their attention, you become the kind of person they don't want to lose. Because now, you're not just someone they like, you're someone they have to work for. And that makes all the difference. The beauty of this approach is that it automatically filters out the wrong people. If someone is only interested in you when you're constantly available, when you're always the one making the effort, then they were never truly invested to begin with. But the person who values you, they won't let you slip away so easily. They'll feel that space you've created and they'll step into it. So if you ever find yourself feeling like you have to convince someone to want you, stop. Instead of trying to prove your worth, pull back, recenter, give them the chance to step up. Because when you do, you'll see something very clearly. The right person won't need to be chased. They'll meet you where you are. Confidence. It's the one trait that no matter what else you bring to the table has the power to change everything. It's the difference between someone noticing you and someone being drawn to you. It's what makes a person not just attractive in the moment, but unforgettable long after they've walked away. And when it comes to relationships, confidence is what separates those who chase from those who naturally command pursuit. But here's the thing, confidence isn't just about how you look or how you carry yourself. It's not about arrogance or trying to prove something to others. Real confidence runs deeper. It's a mindset, an energy, a way of moving through the world that signals one powerful message: I know my worth. And when you truly embody that, people feel it. They sense it in the way you speak, in the way you set boundaries, in the way you choose who gets access to your time and energy. The problem is most people don't operate from this place. Instead, they seek confidence externally. They look for reassurance in other people's opinions. They let their self-esteem rise and fall based on how much attention they're getting. And when that happens, confidence turns into performance. It becomes fragile, dependent on factors outside of their control. This is why so many people find themselves in a cycle of chasing, because when your confidence is dependent on someone liking you, you'll do anything to keep their interest. You'll overthink every text, analyze every interaction, and bend over backward just to be seen as worthy. And in doing so, you send the exact opposite message of confidence. You signal that their approval matters more than your own self-respect. Think about the most magnetic people you've ever met, the ones who seem to effortlessly draw others in. They're not necessarily the best looking or the most charming, but there's something about them that makes you want to be around them. What is it? It's their certainty. The fact that they don't need to convince you of their value. They simply exist in a way that says, I am enough. And that's the key. Confidence isn't about making people like you. It's about knowing that you'll be fine whether they do or not. It's about shifting from I hope they choose me to I'll be okay either way. It's about walking into every interaction with the belief that if this person doesn't see your worth, someone else will. The moment you internalize this, everything changes. Your energy shifts. You stop over-explaining yourself. You stop pretending to be enough. You stop tolerating inconsistent behavior. You stop giving your power away to people who haven't earned it. And ironically, the very act of caring less about winning someone over makes them want to win you over, because now you've become a challenge. Not because you're playing games, but because you're no longer operating from a place of need. And here's the best part. Confidence doesn't just make you more attractive, it makes your life better. When you cultivate real self-assurance, you don't just attract better people, you make better choices. You stop settling for relationships that don't serve you. You stop accepting breadcrumbs of attention. You start expecting more, not because you're demanding, but because you know what you bring to the table. But let's be real, building this kind of confidence isn't always easy. It requires doing the internal work. It requires getting comfortable being alone. It requires creating a life that you genuinely love, regardless of who's in it. Because true confidence doesn't come from being desired. It comes from knowing that whether someone chooses you or not, you choose yourself. So if you ever catch yourself trying too hard to impress someone, pause. Ask yourself, am I acting from confidence or am I acting from fear? Because the moment you start owning your worth fully, unapologetically, you'll notice something incredible. The right people will step up, the wrong ones will fall away. And you'll stop chasing because you'll finally realize you never had to in the first place. There's an undeniable shift that happens the moment you realize that walking away isn't just an option, it's a standard. That refusing to settle isn't about stubbornness, but about self-respect. That holding your boundaries isn't about pushing people away, but about filtering for those who truly deserve to stay. The ability to walk away is one of the most powerful tools you can have in dating, in relationships, and in life. Because the moment you show that you are willing to leave a situation that isn't serving you, the entire dynamic changes. Suddenly, you're not the one waiting to be chosen. You're not the one convincing someone of your worth. You become the person who chooses. But let's be honest, walking away is hard. It requires you to override every instinct that tells you to hold on. It forces you to confront the fear of missing out, the fear of rejection, the fear that if you let go, nothing better will come. And that fear, that's exactly what keeps so many people stuck in situations that don't fulfill them. The problem is, when you stay in a situation where you are undervalued, you send a message. Not just to the other person, but to yourself. You reinforce the belief that this is the best you can get, that being treated inconsistently, being kept at arm's length, being given the bare minimum is acceptable. And the more you tolerate it, the more you teach yourself that this is what you deserve. But the opposite is also true. The moment you walk away from what doesn't serve you, you shift everything. You teach yourself that your time, your energy, and your love are too valuable to be wasted. You create space for something better. And most importantly, you send a message to the world. I am not afraid to lose someone who doesn't see my worth. And here's the irony. When you do this, people take notice. Suddenly, the person who is giving you half-hearted effort starts wondering why you're no longer chasing them. The person who was unsure about you starts realizing they might lose you. And why? Because people don't fear losing something that has always been guaranteed. They fear losing something that has options. This is why having the strength to walk away is so attractive. It's not about playing games. It's not about pretending you don't care. It's about genuinely knowing that you are not dependent on someone else's attention to feel valuable. And that kind of self-assurance is magnetic. It draws people in, not because you're trying to make them chase, but because they want to chase. But let's be clear, walking away doesn't just mean physically leaving. It's a mindset. It means not begging for someone's time. It means not over-explaining yourself to someone who isn't listening. It means not giving second chances to someone who has already shown you they don't respect your first. It's about recognizing when you're the only one fighting for a relationship and choosing instead to fight for yourself. The mistake so many people make is thinking that if they just stay a little longer, if they just give a little more, if they just prove themselves enough, the other person will finally see their worth. But it doesn't work that way. If someone doesn't value you now, more effort won't change that. In fact, it often does the opposite. It makes them take you even more for granted. The truth is, walking away isn't about proving a point to someone else. It's about proving a point to yourself. It's about reclaiming your power. It's about showing up for yourself in the way you wish someone else would. And when you do that, you stop attracting people who require you to beg for their attention. You start attracting people who recognize your worth from the start. So if you ever find yourself wondering whether you should stay in a situation where you feel unappreciated, ask yourself this: if I truly believed I deserved more, what would I do? And then do that. Because at the end of the day, the less you tolerate what isn't right for you, the more space you create for what is.